Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. We are in for a magical experience as we visit with an awe-inspiring, illustrious silhouette today. She brings radiance, excellence, and full allegiance in everything she does. Her depth of experience is both superb and sincerely jaw-dropping astounding as she engages with full heart and devotion in a multitude of roles, such as founder, connector, community champion, volunteer, graduate, advocate, and philanthropist. She has been a beacon of light for thousands during her 40-plus years of service. I may not have the actual data, but I'm pretty confident that's accurate. In 1980, she founded Roanoke Meals on Wheels, now known as Metroport Meals on Wheels. She has lived in Westlake, Texas for 43 years in the most enchanting fairytale-esk historical home, circa 1938, with her husband Scott of 57 years, and she is a proud mother of their two grown daughters, Paige and Brooke. So please help me extend a warm welcome to Kelly Pace Bradley. Hello, Kelly.
Hi, Amber. Thank you so much for having me today. What an opportunity.
Well, thank you for taking time and visiting with us here a little bit as you share your silhouette of success story with us.
Well, it's my pleasure, believe me.
Well, wonderful. Kelly, just to kind of warm up a little bit, it's a pleasure having you, and it's always, I use the word enchanting in the introduction, and that was honestly my first impression, just seeing you. Nevertheless, being able to spend some time with you. So if you would like to share with our audience a little bit about your background, that would be wonderful.
Well, okay, let's see. Where shall I start? 80 years is a long time. I'm from Oklahoma City, grew up there in my formative years, moved to Dallas when I was like 22, married my husband Scott at 23. But my early years were really times before the feminist movement. It was a time of I wanted to grow up and be just like my mother. I wanted to be the mother of all mothers, the wife of all wives. That was my dream. There was just one thing outside of that realm that captured me. For me, was a college education. I wanted a degree. And there's a long story about all of that I would hope to share with you today, too. More of my background, let's see. 2 years of college. I'll just share it now. 2 years of college.
Please.
I went to Oklahoma State. I was ready to go back my third year, and my mom came to me and said, Kelly, it's more important for a male to have a degree than a female. And it's time for your brother to go to school, go to college. And I bought it, hook, line, and sinker, because at that time, that is the way it was. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't go my third year, and because our family could not afford for both of us to be in school at the same time. So I went to work. But the end of that story is that at the age of 50, I graduated from the University of Texas at Dallas. And fulfilled my dream of having a college education.
Love that story. Love that. Talk about tenacity.
Well, I don't know if it was tenacity. It was just a dream. You know, we have our goals, and oh, what a much better student I was later in life is the case, I'm sure, for everyone when they go back to school older. But, you know, it's just so interesting that even as a child, I remember thinking, I'm so glad I was born a girl because I don't have to go to work like the men do. See, I mean, I had my life figured out as a young person to be the homeroom mother, to, you know, just really follow in my mom's steps because she was the best. There's no question about that. But then life changes, and as you know, careers became much more important for women. And so, you know, I could go on and on with this. That's when I decided I really needed to look beyond my original goals, and I needed more fulfillment in life, which I certainly did find with Metroport Meals on Wheels.
Well, you're right. We could go on, and perhaps this won't be just a one segment. Sometimes there is just so much greatness to share with others that is inspiring. And as things have changed so drastically, even over the last year, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But so that is a great segue, though, because we definitely want to visit about your work with Meals on Wheels, Metroport Meals on Wheels. So let's just visit about that right now. Talk to us. How did you start that? I have, of course, here 1980. So let's just start there.
All right. Well, we need to back up just a couple of years. In 1977, Scott and I found Dream House of all houses, and we decided to leave Dallas and move to Westlake into this home that needed a lot of work done on it, but it was something that really captured our heart. So we did that, and we were in the middle of 130 acres. I knew no one. I had no neighbors. I needed something meaningful in my life to do while the children were at school, and my husband was at work in Dallas. And so I had delivered Meals on Wheels in Dallas before we moved out here. So really my volunteer work goes beyond 40 years, as you mentioned in the beginning. And I would drive through Roanoke and see these old houses, and I knew there were people in there that needed help and at least needed a warm meal. And so this was back in the day when Roanoke was nothing like it is today. The whole area was so different. Highway 114 was only 2 lanes. South Lake and Keller Boulevard, only 2 lanes, one way each way. So it was country, really, in the 70s, 77s, and 80s. Anyway, so I stood up in church one day, and I started Meals on Wheels, and it was a very small conversation. And by the end of the service, I had $100 out of the pocket. It didn't come from the church funds. It came out of the individual pocket to buy the supplies we needed. And 13 people signed up to cook and deliver. And then through my tennis league, where I was playing tennis at the Trophy Club, others signed up. And I put people in teams of 4. One person cooked the meat in their own home, another did the vegetable, another prepared dessert, and then a salad. So we had a meal, and then they would meet somewhere, put it together, and deliver. And I got the biggest joy of seeing some of those people who didn't even know each other at the time when they signed up to volunteer become the best of friends and socialize with their husbands. And so it wasn't just the people getting the meal that brought me joy. It was also seeing the volunteers getting so much enjoyment out of serving other people.
That is beautiful. And it's great because you paint the story so we can all visually follow along with you so well. What a fulfilling experience.
Well, it has been, and it continues to be such a thrill for me to just be part of the community in every way possible. It carries over to other organizations and every aspect of your life if you look for the opportunities to connect people. That's my biggest joy now. It really is. And I find myself every day, a day does not go by that I'm not connecting someone with something or someone else. And it's just fun.
It is fun. And, well, I enjoy receiving your text about different opportunities to connect with folks in your life that you think would be a great fit as well. And so that is so joyful to see those come over. You know, when you talk about it, it's a beautiful story how you share with that about your mom. I'll tell you what, my daughter, that was what her goal was too. And I don't know that I would think that she reflected back just on maybe reminiscing on me as her mother, as motherhood, but she, I think, still would say that that's her desired goal, even though she's out there working, is to be a mom and a wife. So isn't that interesting in these times? You know, so I love to hear that too, and I'm tickled to hear you share that. But as you talk about, yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just so basic, you know. I mean, what could be better than having a child or a family and embracing it with your whole spirit and your whole love and life? I mean, there's just nothing better than that. In fact, I consider Metroport Meals as my third child. I've said that often.
Yes.
I feel that way because I feel like I gave birth and was able to help develop it with the help of so many other people. Oh, my goodness. So I don't want to, you know, let that go by. There was just so much input into what we accomplished.
Well, and like you said, still going strong. And so it's so beautiful. As you start to think back to those days, is there something that you could maybe tie back? Obviously, your parents' passion and authentic passion for serving. Can you tie it back maybe or connect it to someone or something that introduced you to such a purposeful mission in life?
Well, again, I have to point to my sweet, wonderful mom.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it was innate. I think I came into this world wanting to do something. In the fourth grade, as a matter of fact, I started the Good Deed Club. And we would take our old red wagon in my neighborhood. I think we had like 6 members maybe, and I charged 25 cents dues. And we met in my bedroom. And we would go through the neighborhood collecting canned goods. And then we would take the money we had at Christmas time and buy a ham or a turkey or something. And my parents would then drive us to, I don't even remember where we got the names of the people. And we would take it to a family. I still remember it to this day, walking into, it seems like it was just a room, people that and they were all in bed together because it was so cold in the house. I still remember that so clearly. So that was fourth grade. So I really do think that it was just part of who I am from the very beginning. And I'm so grateful to God for that because it has brought me so much joy.
Well, yeah, and it's never worn off. You're right. It would almost be innate. But if you were doing Meals on Wheels in fourth grade, right?
A little different form of it, yes, I was.
Right? Red wagons. Hey, they have we.
And Dr. Claudia Beanie of House of Shine, when she heard that story, she believes that all of us show signs of what we are going to become in our early years. So she was fascinated by that story about my Good Deed Club because it really fits with what she believes.
I can see her. Yes, I can see. I could just see her just leaning in, to you when you were sharing that. I can just see her eyes just dancing, right? Oh, and yes, she is so awesome. But yes, she is.
She's one that really brings a lot of inspiration to me and a lot of motivation. I just think the world of the House of Shine and Claudia.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're just going to throw the script out here, and we're going to skip around. So talk a little bit about, we're going to fast forward and then reverse and fast forward. Talk about the House of Shine, and you mentioned that here, and I know what a advocate you are for the House of Shine, but talk a little bit about what you'd like to share on just the inspiration that you get and that I know you participate in generously and in both time and treasure. So talk a little bit about that if you'd like.
Well, it's sort of a magical organization, and it encapsulates everything that I believe. And for me to discover the House of Shine at this point in my life, at 80 years old, is just magical. Because I think that's what Metroport Meals on Wheels is all about. I think that's everything I've ever done in my life all goes directly to what House of Shine believes and what they're trying to teach the children about leading a meaningful life, a purposeful life. So for me to be a part of this organization in just a volunteer way, it's like a gift from God it's like icing on the cake. I just feel like already I've had such a joyous experience with the community that so many people don't have the opportunity, even if they're inclined to want to be a part of it, they don't have the opportunity to do it. I had the opportunity and feel so blessed. And then on top of that, I discovered House of Shine, which it's just an exciting adventure for me. And that's what House of Shine is. It's an adventure. It's magical. I wish everyone who is listening today will at least check out on the website what House of Shine is about. There's so many facets to it. There's so many ways your children, yourself, your husband, anyone from 5 to 95 can be involved in it.
Yes, we will definitely include that in the resource section so our audience can go explore all of the beautiful opportunities that really will help light up the life of everybody who takes a peek at it if you're at a distance and you're not maybe more in the local area. However, I know Dr. Claudia also has, or Dr. Shine, as she goes by, has great ambitions of expanding. In fact, I saw in some fantastic media that they were covering that they've expanded already. So we will include that for the audience because it's a blessing for us locally to be able to walk in and, just become instantly happy and inspired that all of the great things that they do and resources that they have if you're not physically locally in the area. But I think she's going to change that over the next couple of years anyways.
Yes, I do think
yes,
so.
I believe, yes.
And already you can get the Rise and Shine segment of House of Shine online. So she's streaming it or whatever the correct terminology is. So I don't know if you knew that, but so you can live somewhere else and still enjoy that part of her House of Shine.
Amazing. I don't think I did know. So we're going to make sure and put that front and center so everybody is able to enjoy that. So as you share about all of the wonderful things that inspire you, would you say or do you have a piece of advice or life wisdom that maybe was shared with you at some point? It could be last week. It could be years ago that you have found invaluable that you'd want to pass on to our audience?
Take action on whatever thought I was having, even though maybe I was a little fearful about it or not sure of the outcome. To acting on whatever it is that occurs to you or comes to you is extremely important. I don't care how it turns out, just having the courage to do it. And there are a couple of examples I'd like to share with you, if I may.
Please, absolutely.
On doing that, at Metroport Meals on Wheels, we cook in our own homes for 11 years. And that is a long time to schedule 4 people a day. And, you know, I knew that we couldn't expand, and I knew there had to be a change, but I didn't know quite what to do. So I was at the Solana Club on the treadmill, and I was just really trying to figure this out. And I look out the window, and I see the Marriott Hotel, Solana. And I think, oh, I have got to see if they'll cook for us, if they'll become our centralized kitchen. So I hopped off of the treadmill, showered, ran over, and went to the general manager, and I said, would you? And he said, yes. And from that day forth, we were able to expand into the whole region then because we had the food availability. And it changed the whole focus, really. It expanded the program so much. And if I had been too fearful about going over there and approaching him, you know, I don't even know. It would probably still be Roanoke Meals on Wheels. It wouldn't be Metroport, probably. That's one example. And another is I knew we had to have fun because we based our organization on grassroots. We did not want to take federal or state money because it restricted us. We knew that there were people that fell between the cracks of those restrictions. So we needed money. So it was suggested that we have a golf tournament. Well, I know nothing about golf, but the woman who suggested it, Rosie Bartlett, was a golf pro, and she said, I'll help you with that end of it. But why don't we do it? Well, I knew Byron Nelson lived in Roanoke, so I got the courage to write him a letter, including his wife, and asking them if they would be our honorary chairperson. And, of course, he is so famous that for 15 years, he said yes. And and so I gave it to our mechanic to take it to church with him, the letter, because I thought if it was hand-delivered to him by someone he knew, if he didn't know me, that maybe that would make a difference. And we both had the mechanic in common as a friend. So he did say yes, and for 15 years, Byron and Peggy Nelson were at our golf tournament. And at one time, we had over 500 golf. We had 4 different shotguns. I mean, it turned out to be not only a lot of money for our coffers, but our exposure. Our exposure, Metroport Meals on Wheels, was then much more known, and then that caused more donations to come in. So, and plus, people knew that our service was there, and if they knew someone that needed help, they were now aware of Metroport. So it was great advertising. It was great financially, and Byron and I and Peggy became just best friends. The end of that story, which was wonderful. But I had to take action to do that. And I think taking action is just so very important. You have to act.
We hear sometimes that, you know, if you're not motivated or if we're not motivated, we'll take action. But what I have learned over the last several years, and not on my own, but it's taking action will get you to feel motivated. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I know that to be true just with everyday life. if there's a project I'm not too crazy about, like filing or or whatever it might be, if you just get into it, if you start doing it, then the flow comes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with what you just said.
Yeah. It's a hard one sometimes.
Yeah.
Until you learn it, and then you figure it out. But, oh, goodness, both of those are beautiful stories. So thinking on that, too, and reflecting back, was there ever a specific point in time, event, or key situation along your journey that forced you to really take a monumental shift with whatever project you were doing? And if you can think of something, what was the result, and whether it was positive or negative, how did that situation or outcome help you grow?
Probably the two examples I've given you fall into that category, the Marriott and Byron Nelson. But also, a year after we started home delivery meals, one of the seniors in the Roanoke community came up to me and said, she was an active senior. She did not receive a meal, and she said, we have a lot of active seniors that would like to get together and have a congregate meal. And, I'm thinking, how can we do home delivered and that? We can't do that. But we did. And we started with Roanoke Senior Center. And we had this most wonderful community meal. And I had all the volunteers bring a dish, just like we did for the home delivered meals. And I asked churches if they would, adopt a certain Wednesday of every Wednesday we did this to begin with. It ended up being a 5-day-a-week, believe it or not, and we actually paid a senior center advisor who came in and helped the coordinator. It was just the most beautiful thing because it was intergenerational. We invited everyone, and they didn't have to live in Roanoke either. They could be from anywhere. So we had seniors from all the regions. We had, oh my gosh, it was so wonderful. And then we had other community members of all ages, and it was just really important. And corporations, I would have like Mercedes Corp group come in, and I would see the head of that company with his sleeves rolled up, washing dishes in the kitchen of the senior center. I just look back on all of that as magical. It was just magical to see all those different people coming together to make something happen. And then after Roanoke Meals on Wheels, we started the Southlake Senior Center. After the Roanoke Senior Center, we started the Southlake Senior Center, and then the Colleyville, and then the Hazlitt, and then the Justin, and it just goes on and on. It's amazing.
I see a pattern here. Miss Callie, I see a pattern here. Oh, you have enriched our lives beyond, I think, what we could quantify. Wow. But again, because you took the step, that is it.
Well, and I just have to emphasize over and over and over how many people were there to make this happen. I did not make it happen. It was all the other people. If they hadn't been there, it wouldn't have happened. In fact, one girl who was volunteering with us told me one day, she said, okay, Kelly, you're not going to make the calls to remind people to, do whatever they need to do, the volunteers. She said, because you get on the phone and you ask about their grandchildren and you talk about, and you spend 30 minutes talking. It could be, and this girl was from England, so she was very to the point. And she got her call done, her reminder call in about 1 minute. So I needed people like Shirley to just tell me how the cow ate the cabbage.
That's so funny. And it takes the collaboration in all of those different personality types and strengths and to bring it all together. So I hear you on that.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Definitely.
Well, if there is a time where maybe you need a little bit of inspiration yourself, or encouragement, what do you or where do you turn to for that?
Well, I would say first, friends and family. That's just, I listen. I listen to them because that's what they do for me. But also, Richard Rohr, Father Richard Rohr, a Catholic priest. I'm not even Catholic, but this man speaks to me. Several of his books that were probably the first one, Falling Upward, is one of them, talking about how valuable vulnerability is and how important, well, you just need to read the book. It's just absolutely fantastic. And also through my church group, we read books, and there's a small group that we meet once a week and discuss several books. We just finished Brian McLaren's book, Faith After Doubt. And then, one that I just loved so much was Wake Up Grateful by Christy Nelson. That was the book that was just fantastic. And, you read books, but then when you get together in a group and discuss them, it adds so much more depth to it. So I would say that's where I get my encouragement and my motivation.
Those are treasured opportunities, too, to share with each other.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I think probably the first book I read that really grabbed me was Scott Peck's The Road Less Traveled. Now, that's an old book, but I'm an old girl. So. But the first 3 words in that book is life is difficult. And Amber, before I read that, I was under that little impression that life was supposed to be perfect. And if something went wrong, I felt like it was all my fault. It's just crazy how reading those first 3 words, life is difficult, made me realize how my thinking had been off balance. And it put me onto the road of not everything has to be perfect. And, that's the problem I think that a lot of women have, and especially women from my era. Maybe even from this one, I'm not sure.
Well, what you say is very profound and on point. And it is, in my experience, especially doing the Silhouette of Success stories, my real estate coach or my business coach tells me there's danger in perfection, Amber, because you're right. We all struggle with that, I think, in some form or fashion. Mm-hmm. Because we definitely, and you just mentioned something about one of the books and talking about vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And maybe being afraid to, make those mistakes or let others see the human nature of such imperfections. We guard them carefully. So, yeah. Well,
so I read that book when I was probably 40, and I think it served me very well for all these years.
So of course, I'm a note taker, and I tease every time in all of these podcasts that I know we can listen to these over and over. And I have said this line before, but it just fills my love tank to take all of these notes and to capture all of this. I think that's just part of how I embrace and learn as well, as by taking the notes. But also, we will share these books in the resource section because, again, I think they're all invaluable. And if they speak to one, they speak to many. So thank you for sharing those. Well, Kelly, as we begin to wrap up and respecting your time, is there anything else you'd want to share with our audience? Any other fun stories or anything about you that we didn't touch on? And granted, there's tons, but but for the sake of this one, is there anything else you'd want to share with us today?
Well, I'll cap it off with what a joy I'm finding in opening our home to all the nonprofits in the area to help fundraise. It has just been so much fun. I've met so many people. Our home was created actually to share. We knew the minute we moved into that house that it was not our house. It was the community house. And it really has been that. Even when the girls were in high school, people after the football games, the parents and our daughter's friends would come over, and I didn't even know who it was that was in the kitchen cooking fajitas. I mean, I knew them, but I didn't know which person would be in charge of it that night. But, I mean, it started out that way, and now it has ended up being nonprofit that benefit from it. And, boy, does that make me happy. And Scott, too. We both are walking down that path, loving every minute of it.
Well, it definitely has been magical, and I mean that with 150%, that it has the fairytale-esque magical. I can't articulate it right now. I can in my head and how I feel when I walked in, but it has both. It is a family home. It embraces you and snuggles you, but yet it has the spirit of everybody in community. So I think it's perfect that you capped off our talk today with the house, because it is all of that, all of that.
You know, our dream is to have that become a museum for the town of Westlake, because and a sculpture garden maybe on the ground, so that the community can continue enjoying it long after we're gone. I don't know if that's our next big adventure or if we're just, you know, dreaming pie in the sky. But that's the vision we have right now, and I'm hoping so much it comes true.
I would say that the little girl in 4th grade with her red wagon charging 25 cents for membership, and the young lady that had the dream to get her degree and then finished at 50, I wouldn't say there's any pie in the sky for Kelly. I think whatever you all put your minds and hearts to, the community in large definitely embraces and benefits from all of your thoughts and loving generosity. So
thank you for your encouragement.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for helping encourage me, because you do light up my world as well. So is there anything that, as far as continuing to maybe keep in touch with you, again, sharing this broadly, so do you have any contact information or a resource or anything you would want to share with the audience in general?
Well, you mean like my email or?
Well,
I'm happy to share that.
Yeah, it's up to you whether you would want to or not, or we can just keep up with you, you know, with the Metroport Meals on Wheels. We can put that information in there too.
Oh, thank you for that. I would appreciate having Metroport Meals on Wheels in there. And also my email, because as a connector, people have to know how to get in touch with me so I can connect.
Well, right? Perfect. The stage is yours. Go right ahead.
You're so cute. Well, thank you. That's a wonderful way for me to keep living my dream and fulfilling my life, is to be able to connect people with other people. So thank you for that.
Well, perfect. Why don't you share your email address, whichever one is your preferred?
All right. It's Kelly Pace Bradley, KELLYPACEBRADLEY at Verizon.net.
Excellent. And I will be sure we include that as well. Well,
Okay.
Kelly, thank you once again for sharing your time, your Silhouette of Success story with us. It has been a tremendous honor and pleasure visiting with you today.
Well, thank you so much. I can't imagine being in your shoes and hearing all the stories you're hearing, and you're so full of life. I don't know how you can take in any more information, but you're full already. But thank you for offering this to the community. It's a very special thing. Amber, thank you.
Thank you. All right, my lady, you have a great day. Thank you once again.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out, and join us for all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. Amber would love to hear from you, and you can find her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or head over to amberweitzer.com. Let's connect. Help us all shine and leave us a review too. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at amberweitzer.com. We are honored, humbled, and full of joy that you've tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer Podcast, Silhouettes of Success.